If you've never used a GPS dog collar before, the websites for SpotOn and Halo can be a little misleading. One looks more affordable, one leans into celebrity endorsements, and one markets itself as the most advanced option out there. But the truth is, these two collars are more similar than they first appear. And the real differences aren't necessarily obvious from a product page. So in this video, I'm going to focus on the stuff that you're not going to find on the website. Things like setup quirks, real-world performance, and what actually changes depending on the size of your dog or the layout of your yard. If you're just looking for the basic specs, battery life, fit, size, all of that, they're all listed down below. But here's the short version. Both collars are extremely accurate. Both of them last 30 hours or more, and both work for most dogs. What matters is where they don't overlap, and that's what we're breaking down today. Here's the thing that neither website makes crystal clear. The actual cost you'll pay over time is basically the same for both collars, but they structure it completely differently, and that matters more than you might think. SpotOn hits you with a $1,000 price tag upfront. Yes, it's expensive, and yes, it kind of made me wince when I first saw it, which is also why I have a discount code below. But here's what they don't emphasize enough on their website. Once you buy it, you own a fully functional GPS fence. No monthly fees required. The collar is going to create boundaries for you, it'll alert your dog, and it'll keep them contained without you paying another cent. The tracking subscription is completely optional at $10 a month, and honestly, I only use it when we're traveling or when we're trying out new areas. Halo, on the other hand, starts at around $550, which feels way more reasonable until you realize that you absolutely have to pay for their subscription in order to use any of the GPS features. And I mean any of them. Without the subscription, you basically have an expensive regular dog collar. Their plans start at around $10 a month, but if you want the full experience with all the training features, and they have a lot of training features, you're looking at closer to around $20 a month. Now, here's the math that matters. Over 3 years, you're going to spend roughly the same amount on either system. The difference is whether you want to pay more now or whether you want to spread it out over time. And even that isn't necessarily the full story, considering there are payment options for either one of them. But there's a psychological element here that the websites don't address. I personally hate managing subscriptions. I don't want another monthly charge on my credit card, and I don't want to worry about my dog's safety while being tied to whether I remembered to update my payment method. For me, paying more upfront for SpotOn was actually preferable because once it's done, and your collar works. But I know that plenty of people who would rather have the lower upfront cost and manage the monthly payment exist, especially if the cash flow is tight. So this is where things get interesting because both companies make big claims about their GPS technology, but the real world performance tells a bit of a different story depending on where you live and how you like to use the collar. SpotOn uses what they call dual feed active antenna technology, which sounds like marketing speak until you actually test it in challenging conditions. What it actually means in practice is that the collar gets GPS signals from 2 different sources simultaneously, and the antenna points up toward the sky rather than down toward the ground. This might seem like a small detail, but actually it makes a huge difference when you're dealing with interference. Halo 4 has completely redesigned their GPS system from earlier versions, and trust me, those earlier versions had problems. They now use dual frequency GPS, and they claim accuracy within 1.4 feet on average. On paper, that sounds excellent, and in ideal conditions, it performs really well. But here's what you're not going to see clearly explained on either website. The difference between these systems becomes apparent when conditions aren't ideal. So if you have a suburban yard with good cell coverage and minimal tree cover, honestly, you're probably not going to notice much difference between them. Both are going to work reliably, both of them are going to keep your dog contained, and both will make you pretty happy. The gap widens when you introduce challenging factors. We're talking dense tree cover, hilly terrain, areas with spotty cell service, or properties that have lots of buildings and lots of interference. This is where SpotOn's technical superiority actually matters. And I have tested both collars on my friend's property that has thick pine trees. And SpotOn maintained consistent boundaries where Halo would occasionally have drift issues or delayed responses. So the question you need to ask yourself here is whether that extra precision is worth the higher upfront costs. If you have a relatively open property with good connectivity, the answer might be no. The Halo 4 will probably work just fine for you. And of course, you're going to save money up front. But if you have a rural property with lots of trees, uneven terrain, or if you're in areas where cell service is typically spotty, SpotOn is definitely going to save you the headaches. There's one more accuracy consideration, though, that's worth mentioning. That's how the systems handle boundaries when your dog is moving fast. Mine doesn't move so fast, as you can see, but we've heard this from other users. Both of them use predictive algorithms to account for your dog's speed and direction, but SpotOn's system seems to be slightly more responsive when dealing with a dog that's running full speed toward a boundary. Again, this might not matter for a dog that meanders around the yard, sniffing everything it can find, but if you have a high-energy dog that likes to sprint, chase squirrels, could be the difference between a close call and a big problem. So what it's like to actually use these collars day to day is where personal preference really starts to matter. Both brands made some very intentional design choices, and depending on what kind of dog owner you are, you're probably going to lean one way or the other. Let's start with the physical design. The Halo 4 is definitely sleeker and more lightweight. On my dog Kona, it honestly just looks like a regular collar with a bit of technology built in, and it doesn't bother her at all. It's not bulky and huge. SpotOn, on the other hand, is a bit bulkier. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It has more powerful antenna hardware, but it's definitely more noticeable on your dog. So if your dog is smaller or you care about aesthetics, Halo's going to take the win here. Now, when it comes to the apps, this is where the experience really splits, for me anyway. Halo's app is by far the most intuitive GPS collar app that I've used. It's got a clean layout. It has really clear features. It's just easy to navigate. SpotOn's app works fine, but it feels more functional than friendly. It's clearly built for utility first and less about looks, more about results. Both of them are going to let you set up fences by walking the perimeter or by drawing them on a map, but how they handle that process is just a little bit different. SpotOn is a bit more precise when you physically walk the boundary, while Halo makes the draw on the map option a whole lot easier. If you just want to set it up and move on, Halo's approach is definitely going to be quicker for you. Another big difference, though, is training. Both collars use tone, vibration, and optional static correction when your dog approaches the boundary. But Halo goes just a step further and bakes Cesar Millan's training program right into the app. I'll be honest, I didn't really expect to like it, but the walkthroughs are clear and they're really helpful, especially if you're new to boundary training. SpotOn has training resources too, but they're just more separate from the day-to-day experience. One thing that you're not going to really see in the marketing is how these collars fit into your routine. Neither one of them is designed to stay on your dog 24/7. They're both going to last right around 30 hours on a full charge, but let's be real, you're probably going to take it off and toss it on the charger at night, right? That battery life just gives you a cushion in case you forget the charger on a weekend trip. It's really nice. And when we have it on her, it's like a half day and then we're inside. So that said, SpotOn has a big advantage if you live somewhere with spotty service. It works without needing a cell connection, while Halo, on the other hand, needs that connection for most of its features, so it's more reliant on having that good coverage. Durability is solid on both collars. My collars survived water, drops, some chaotic fetch sessions. Kona here put it through the ringer. SpotOn just feels more rugged, like it was built to take a beating, while Halo is more polished, but not necessarily fragile. So if your dog is especially rough on gear, SpotOn might be the safer bet for you. As for customer service, SpotOn usually gets better reviews for responsiveness and tech support. Halo has improved a whole lot over the last year though, but they are still catching up. So if you like to troubleshoot on your own, both brands have solid support pages. But if you're someone who'd rather call and just talk to a human on the phone, SpotOn is probably going to have the edge here. So ultimately, your decision comes down to a few key factors. Halo has a sleeker design, both in how it fits on your dog and how its app feels to use day to day. It's also just a bit more affordable upfront, even when you factor in the subscription, which you may end up needing with SpotOn anyway. But pound for pound, if you're after the most accurate GPS dog collar on the market, SpotOn is the stronger choice. Halo's great for simpler setups, and it does a better job with the little details, especially in average size yards. But if you want the peace of mind that comes with using the most advanced and reliable collar out there, SpotOn is pretty hard to beat. Either way, I've linked the best discounts down below, and since a lot of this is based on my own hands-on experience, let me know in the comments if there's something that helped you decide that I didn't mention, and I will do my best to answer your questions or include your input in the next review.